Hello, and welcome to the next Casio review. This is review number 5, and this will be our final review on this keyboard. It's taken 5 parts because there's so much complexity and so many features on this keyboard that it's hard to do it in just one. And with the 800 sounds, and the 260 styles, it was difficult to even show those. So you got an abbreviated version of this, but at least you're listening to this keyboard in its full sound capacity. And it's you're not hearing a poor audio recording through the microphone of the camera. So this is what the keyboard actually sounds like when you record it and play it back through a stereo system. So in this final part, I'm going to show some of the working features on the top here. So this is called an arranger keyboard. How many people are actually buying this for the arranger function? I'm not sure. I certainly did buy it for the arranger function. So I'm going to go through that first. What I've got set up here now is a very custom setup. The piano, well actually with the accompaniment turned on, you're hearing an accompaniment. The piano is a dual layer. It's 2 voices. I edited both those voices and I saved them and then plugged them into this dual layer. So we have this piano to listen to with this style, which is called a slew blues style, which I also edited. I did all these things so that you could see the full power of this keyboard and what it's capable of. So this is a edited tones, edited style. I've gone through the mixer and I've very carefully adjusted all the levels so that I could play this song exactly the way I wanted it. I'm going to switch over to the original style as it came. It came with this octave piano, and it came with a style with a that string just droning on. It was driving me crazy. So I went in and edited it, and I took that string out and I adjusted the individual volumes of the rhythm to where I wanted it. So we've gone from to this. So these are the same styles. But they've been edited. And that is the most powerful feature of this keyboard, that you can edit the styles, that you can edit the sounds. That makes this the most creative 76 full-size keyboard with portable and lightweight. That makes this the most powerful keyboard that you can buy. Now the problem is that well, I'm going to do a summary review at the end of this Casio number 5 review, and I'm going to compare it to other arrangers out there. The arranger market is extremely difficult to buy from because it is Well, I'll go through that at the end. So let's go back to this. I'm going to play this style that's been highly edited, and I can play it very expressively now because it's been edited and mixer adjusted to exactly the way I want to play this song. So let's try and use the arranger by going through. I'm going to be going through the different fills. There's different fills. And the one thing I won't be using is I won't be using the style ending. I'll only be using the drum part of the style for the ending, because I did not edit the intro and the exit. So under the styles, so since I did the style still has on the intro and ending all that extra in there that I don't want. This is going to be a very quiet, soft piece. And as I said before, it's when you play these keyboards slow that you actually hear what they sound like. When you play them fast, you can buy just about any keyboard and it'll be fine for you. So if you never play slow, you can't go wrong with a keyboard. They're all going to be fine. But we're going to slow this one down so you can really hear the piano and really hear everything. And there's not a lot of backing instruments in this either. So let's do a review on this style here. And as I went through this, you probably heard some mistakes. And there were mistakes in there. The way we switch between the different patterns is very rough when you're trying to put a fill in there. This has been I'm sorry to bring this up so late in Casio 5, but this is a real brick wall here. Casio really screwed up on this fill. Because all the other arrangers, when you hit a fill, it starts at the beginning of the beat, at the beginning of the measure. When you hit a fill on this one, it starts immediately when you hit the key. So to do fills on this keyboard, you have to play like a robot. You have to play exactly in time. Otherwise, the fill will start at the wrong time. So I was doing my very best as a keyboard player to put those fills in right at the beginning of that measure. I had to watch the beats, and I couldn't even really play the way I wanted to play. I couldn't play relaxed. Now the switch between the normal and the second pattern, which is called the variation, that switch is smooth. Here we're in the normal. I'm going to switch to the variation in the middle of the measure. And it's switched right at the beginning of the measure. That's what the fills are supposed to do, but they're not doing it. And you're also hearing the other part that's very difficult to avoid. By playing fast, the Casio is sometimes picking up the fast speed as a chord. Now I'm in there's different chord modes. You can play with just below the split point the chords. But right now I'm doing full keyboard, and any musician is going to be using full keyboard most likely all the time, especially with the acoustic piano. Here when I hit that fill, it did a little jump because I wasn't on perfect time. So that is a real brick wall. I cannot perform this on this keyboard live with the fills and do it perfectly, because they should have made it adjustable. By default, they should have been at the beginning of the measure on the first beat. And if you wanted to take that off, that should have been an option, but it's not in the software. I thought it was. That's why I waited so long. I've been searching for 2 months for that control to turn that off, and it doesn't exist. So here we are at a brick wall again. First I was at a brick wall because of the sounds, and I kind of got around it by doing the editing. Now I'm at a brick wall with a very basic function of the auto accompaniment. So unfortunately this keyboard was so complex it took me 2 months to get into it and figure out what I could and couldn't do. So I've gone past my 30-day return policy, and now this keyboard's mine. This keyboard's mine, and I don't want it anymore. This is really disappointing, and I feel like I've been taken advantage of here, because I've been trying to wrap my head around what this keyboard's good for. Who was it intended for? As a well-practiced musician, I can't even use this damn thing. And then the first thing I do is when I buy the keyboard is I go through the sounds, and every sound in here is next to horrible compared to other keyboards out there of the same price. The only saving grace was I was able to edit those sounds and bring them under control. The sounds in here are very brittle, and they have a high frequency, and I've come up with maybe 3 or 4 scenarios why Casio did this. They might have done these really high, brittle sounding, irritating sounds in here because they were trying to make up for the lack of the total quality of the speakers. Now the speakers are pretty good, but they still aren't anything like your home stereo speakers. So that's scenario one. They made them extra bright, put that extra high frequency in there so that they sound better through the internal speakers. Or number two, their sound engineers are old rock and rollers and they're deaf and they can't hear high frequencies anymore. Number three, they could have done that because you want bright sounds when you're playing in a heavy mix. Let's see, yes. The more heavily instrumental, how many instruments are put into the mix, that brightness on a lead brings it out. So you want the high frequency in there. That could be what and then the last reason I got is they put the high frequencies in there because let's go into a simple synth sound. They might have put the extra high frequencies in there. Well, let's use that. Let's use that first string that I found this to be a very irritating sound, so I immediately went into the tone edit, went to the what's called a filter. So you can take those high frequency sounds out of there. You can go as far as you want on those. So that might have been the other reason they did it. But the sounds are still weak. I'm trying to get out of this edit mode here. And the other disturbing part of the accompaniment is if you have accompaniment turned on and it's not running, and you play a chord, it plays the accompaniment. Another thing I'm not used to in arranger keyboards. Here's it's off, here's it's on. So, I guess after working with this thing for 2 months, I've just ended up in a frustrating and very disappointing end to it all. This brick wall with the fills has really made it unusable for me to actually play it live. I'm not going to have to worry about hitting these buttons at the exact time so that it doesn't sound all screwed up. So anybody out there who can play like a robot, if you can play in perfect time, you won't have a problem. But it's really not a musician's keyboard, and this is what I've come up to. And after working with this thing for 2 months, it's not a musician's keyboard. It has lots of features, so it's kind of a beginner geek keyboard. Somebody that's intelligent and can figure out this this architecture and make it work, but aren't very good musicians. They'll probably have a lot of fun with this keyboard, and for $450, it's not bad. And for people that don't have much money, like me, that's why I got this keyboard. If I had plenty of money, I would have bought something else. But for everybody else, it's got a built-in audio recorder. Now, I already have a nice audio recorder. I didn't really need that. If you don't have that, again, this keyboard is fully contained with an audio recorder. And of course, the MIDI recorder, too. So let's go through the basic on-panel functions here. If I just want to pick a tone, tone selection is very easy. If they're in categories, you push the category. You get the piano. And in this category, there's 35 pianos. There's different numbers in each category. If I want a synth, I just push synth. And I pick my synth. Also got a dedicated button just for my user tones. There's 100 slots in here. So these are edited tones that I've saved myself. So picking out a tone, even though there's 800, isn't that much of a problem. It's very well laid out for that. Now for choosing a style, that's done in 3 categories, or 6 categories up here too. So picking out a style isn't that difficult either. We have pop, jazz, Latin, world, piano, and again, a dedicated button for user rhythms. So when I want my user rhythm that I just made for this one, so it's no problem getting my user rhythm with my user tone. So to set up a rhythm, it's fairly simple. Let's go to the basic piano. And we'll go to a piano rhythm category. I can scroll through them with the wheel. There's 39 in this one. Let's do a pop ballad. So let's see what that sounds like. And you can turn auto accompaniment on. Let's turn up the tempo. There's the accompaniment. There's the fill. Here's the second one. Here's the fill. Back to the first, and then here's the ending. So in just a few seconds we picked a piano, we picked a rhythm, and everything's fine. And in a few seconds more I can add a layer to that piano. Again, I got to turn auto accompaniment off to hear it by itself. So let's add a pad to that piano. So I just hit my layer button, go to my synth and look for a pad. So there's the pad. Here's the original. There's the original. Here's the layered one. I can immediately do edits to that by going into the. I have a upper 1, upper 2. That is the 2 layers, and a up and a lower 1 that I can specify. So upper 1 can be the piano, which will be the same. Upper 2, I can lower that octave by 2. So now I have the layer, and I've immediately changed the octave to give it a richer tone. I go into the mixer, go to the volume, and I can set the volume of the piano, switch over to track. I got a different volume set for each one of those layers. Piano's more in the background of that synth tone now. Now, after adjusting the volumes of these, if you do any kind of switching away from this, you're going to find it'll cancel everything out. So we have to do a store right away here. And I'm going to do a store on bank 10, registration 6. Now it's going to store my octave settings, my layer settings, and now all I have to do is choose a new rhythm. And there's a number of rhythms in this category. You can use the speed dial, and we'll just use this one here. Now I'm going to save this again. Now I have my style saved and all my setups saved, so here we go. And we've pretty much set up a custom designed fairly quickly in just a few minutes with the front control panels here. So here I am sitting in front of the Casio. Listen, this is the first time you got to actually hear this through the speakers. And of course the piano doesn't sound like this as it does as it's being recorded. You can't compare any keyboard when recording through the speakers and into a microphone. For one, these are stereo samples, and you're not hearing stereo through the microphone of the... Even if you got stereo recording on your camera, you still can't hear it. The stereo output of this keyboard. It's been mixed together, comes off the ceiling, bounces around this room, and you end up with something you really can't hear. Sounds like a keyboard, but it's really can't be compared this way. So if you're looking at other YouTube videos and they aren't plugging this keyboard into a recorder, direct injecting it, you have no idea what this keyboard really does sound like. So my videos have given you a very good idea what this keyboard sounds like, especially when recorded and played back through your stereo system. So here we are in summary. For 2 months I've been trying to figure out, 2 or 3 months now, I've been trying to figure out what the intended audience for this keyboard was. Who was this keyboard, and who are they thinking were going to buy it? As a musician, with the weak sounds, with the awkward shifts, with the awkward auto accompaniment fills with only two choices in variations. With a keyboard that is, you've been hearing the noise of this keyboard all through my videos. Out of all my keyboards I've ever bought in my entire life, this keyboard bed is the actually cheapest one. How this is going to hold up, I don't know. My Piaggio feels like a very solid instrument. I don't expect that key bed to go bad in the next 10 years. This one may go bad this year. It may end up, I don't know, we'll see. But I don't intend on keeping this keyboard for very long if I don't have to. I will be purchasing a Korg micro arranger. The Korg micro arranger is only $500, has a 5-pin MIDI jack on it, and I will be hooking it up directly from my P95 and playing it from an 88 weighted keyboard. It will be the ideal situation for me. For everybody else out there, the Piaggio may be a good choice if you don't want to get in and edit. If you want to edit, then the Piaggio is out of the question. Piaggio, you can't edit the sounds, you can't edit the rhythms, you can't adjust them in any way. And one of the bigger disadvantages is the pedal. The sustain pedal can't be specified in left or right on a split. It's always on the right and always off on the left. Casio, of course, goes very deep into editing, and you can specify many different things on here. So, feature-wise, yes, this keyboard's full of features, but you're playing it through sounds that aren't very good. Now the rhythm sounds, the drum sounds, all the short sample sounds, they're all very good. But as soon as you add instruments to it, you're going to have to edit, you're going to have to do something. It's not a very good sounding keyboard. Compare this to the Korg or the Piaggio, which is about the same price, and I think you're going to like the sounds on those better. Now with the Korg, I haven't tested it. I have never seen one. Where I live, the opportunity of actually getting to play these instruments is extremely rare. And there's no place to really go. So I have to order them, get them in, and hopefully I can figure them out within 30 days and make sure they're going to work. In this case, it took me a couple of months to figure this out and to figure out that it's not going to work for me. The Korg micro arranger is a fully editable instrument, and it has MIDI in. If this one would have MIDI in, it might have made all the difference in the world. I could have used my own pianos, I could have used alternate sounds. You could go MIDI into this, MIDI out of this into another synthesizer or another keyboard you may have, and you could combine all those sounds together into a really massive sound. But since they've left the 5 pins off of this, I don't really know what this was intended for, other than, like I said in the first part of this video, it's basically a kind of a geek instrument for those who are intelligent enough to figure it out, but aren't enough skilled musician to appreciate a fine quality playable instrument. So I hope these 5 videos have helped you out. I wish I would have discovered the brick wall of trying to make the styles play smoothly from one fill to the next, but because it's not smooth, it's kind of left me in no man's land. So I will be attempting to sell this keyboard and get a Korg micro arranger, and if that one works, you'll see a review on that one next. But I am out of money. I am the regular poor musician that can't afford this high-end stuff. I have to buy small versions of keyboards and then work them all together eventually. So I was going to discuss the arranger market. The arranger market's a very strange market indeed. Very few arrangers come with 88 keys. Even the $5,000 Yamahas and a $4,000 Korgs, they're top of the line arrangers, they are not 88 key. You're lucky if you can actually get 76 keys. So for a piano player, it's very strange that you can only buy one 88 key arranger, and that's the Yamaha. Yamaha makes an 88 key, but it looks like just a fancier version of the Piaggio, and that means you can't edit sounds, you can't edit the styles, and it's not going to be very feature rich for doing any kind of creative work. So you got the 88 keys, but again, you don't have the creative control over the sounds and the styles. Here we got 76 keys, which is actually, that's about the longest you're going to get, except for that one instrument out there. Everybody else is making 61 and 76 keys, and the problem is you got to spend at least $1,000 before they finally put a 5-pin MIDI cable hookup to them. The Korg micro arranger and the Roland, one of the cheaper Rolands it's around $600. Roland is including MIDI too. So I'll be checking out the Roland before I buy the micro arranger, but I doubt that I will buy the Roland. I've owned Rolands all my life. Yamahas for the last 20 years. Roland was the first keyboard I ever bought, other than the Lowry organ I started with in the 60s. So Roland, I've never liked the sound quality that comes with the Rolands. If you spend enough money, if you spend into the 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 range, you can probably get the good sounds, but they don't seem to be putting them on their $1,000 keyboards. Now that might have changed. I haven't bought a Roland keyboard with sampled sounds. I have a Roland Gaia synthesizer, which I love. It is an excellent instrument. Easy to use, easy to create. You can create your sounds without losing the artistic part of it because it's so easy. All the controls are there, no submenus. So it's been a while since I've owned a Roland sampled playback instrument. So they may have gotten better. But again, at that low price range, I don't think there's going to be any editing. So I'm looking for a very creative keyboard that I can edit. I want to edit sounds. I want to edit the styles. I want to be able to mix and do a fast mix by adjusting volume levels and reverb levels. And this one fills the bill for that, but the sounds are so weak, and there's a couple of brick walls in here that you just can't get by on a way that you can perform on this. The piano in here is still, it's still a huge compromise compared to my P95. And we'll see how good the Korg piano is. I've never purchased a Korg instrument in my life. It will be my first adventure into Korg. We'll see what they do with that micro arranger, and we'll see how good their piano sounds. Now, I've had a friend that brought over a very expensive Korg with a huge sample of their grand piano, and it wasn't really that great. They threw a lot of memory at it, and it wasn't that great of a playing piano. My P95 at $600 was still a better sounding acoustic piano. So those are the compromises. We don't have MIDI pins on most of these. I mean, I would have bought immediately the Yamaha PSR S670. Those have been around in the scratch and dent market for about $600. I would have bought that. I never would have considered this. But Yamaha doesn't put a 5-pin MIDI jack on there. And I'm not going to buy an arranger keyboard that only has 61 keys. No piano player can use no true piano player can use a 61 key. So this whole arranger market is very strange to me. If you spend enough money, if you get into the $1,000, $1,200, $1,300, the exception of that Korg micro arranger, which comes with a micro key that micro keys. Whether they're playable, I don't know. People say they are. Once you get that one's only $500, and it has a MIDI in. So to me, that's the only arranger on the market in these price ranges that's going to give me high quality sounds, full editing, much higher editing quality than this has. This has, and you can layer 3 sounds together right from the box. So for anybody that's already got a keyboard and a MIDI cable out, you may want to take a very close look at this Korg micro arranger for $500. So like I said, this arranger market is very, very strange. Most of them have very short keyboards. Most of them under the $1,000 point don't have MIDI connections. And then even after you got the MIDI connections, you got 61 keys, you still don't want to play through the thing. So you've already spent $1,300 to $2,000 on one of the mid-level Yamaha PSR S750 and 950. Those are $1,300 and like $1,900 keyboards. You've already spent that money, but you still got a 61 key keyboard, which isn't playable for a true pianist. So you still got to go out and buy another $500 or $600 fully weighted keyboard controller, or find a used P95. Unfortunately, I don't think when they upgraded the P95, Yamaha upgraded to P115, I think they took the MIDI connections off. I think it's USB now. So until someone needs to either build a USB conversion to standard 5-pin MIDI so we can use the MIDI out on some of these keyboards that don't have 5 pins, so we can start communicating again. It was 20 years ago. They solved all these problems 20 years ago with the MIDI connection. You can connect keyboards together, and it doesn't matter who makes them, what manufacturer, you can control your keyboards from one to the next with just a single simple cable. And now with USB, they seem to be wanting to eliminate these 5-pin connections. And for keyboard players, all professional, every single professional keyboard player you're ever going to meet has never got one keyboard. Because you can't make one keyboard usually do everything, or we can't afford to buy the $5,000 keyboard that does do everything. So back to the arranger market. Here we are in an arranger market that you can't really get a weighted 88 key arranger from anybody except the Yamaha. There's a Yamaha out there for about $900. That's an 88 key, but a very simple arranger that can't be edited. So we're in no man's land. I'm hoping this Korg micro arranger with the MIDI input, where I'm going to hook it up from my full weighted 88 key piano. I'm going to hook those two together and play them together. I read the complete manual, which is really deep. The Korg micro arranger is a very complex keyboard. So if you're afraid of editing, you may not want to venture into that one either. But we'll see. I haven't got that one in my hands yet, and I can't make a fair assessment. But I will be looking to sell this Casio 7600, and I will probably sell the Piaggio MPV 80 also, even though that's a very solid keyboard with some good sounds in it, and it's only the sounds in it that would give me any reason to keep it. But because I've owned it for 3 or 4 years now, and not being able to edit sounds, not being able to edit styles, it's become a very boring keyboard. I cannot create anything on it. I have to use their styles, their sounds, and my creation, which I am a composer, so creation is a huge part of me. Without the creative ability to change the sounds and to at least change the levels of the style, so that I can take something that's irritating me out, like I showed you on the first part of this video. You can easily go into this one And if there's an irritating string sound or synthesizer sound in there you don't like, you can just take it out, save that as your own style, and it's gone. So it's very, very confusing with all of these different keyboards out there, and none of them seem to really fit the bill of a piano player. A piano player, when I'm composing, I may be playing high notes and low notes at the same time. That is not possible really on a 76, and completely impossible on a 61 key keyboard. Now these 61s have really nice octave shifts where it's all transparent. You can be playing, shift the octave, and as soon as you start playing, then it goes smoothly into the next, into the octave shift. But you still, as a piano player who's used to having 88 keys, you still can't do, I still can't play the compositions that I've written for a standard piano. I can only play maybe one or two compositions of all my compositions that I've made for a piano on a 76 key, and I can't play any of them on a 61. I'm a composer that uses the complete range of the keyboard. So I'm thinking that maybe these arrangers are designed for people who aren't really full keyboard, full piano instrumental players. They're singer-songwriters who play in the more narrow range of the center of the keyboard. A singer-songwriter isn't going to play up into the higher notes unless they're not singing and playing some kind of solo. And they're not going to be down into the darker notes either for very long. So maybe that's why all these arranger keyboards on the market are the narrow keyboards. I don't know. I'm trying to figure all this out for you, and it's just a total mess out there. Everything would be simple if they had 5-pin MIDI jacks, but since they have eliminated those on many of the keyboards in the lower price ranges, those of us who are poor musicians are having real trouble getting a good arranger. You can always throw money at it. You can buy one of the higher priced keyboards, go out and buy a nice higher priced piano with a MIDI connection, and you're all set. You got everything you need. Put those two keyboards together on a stand where you can play either MIDI. You can just play the 88 MIDI all the way in, or you can separate it and use it as two keyboards too. Gives you lots of options. Well, this has been a very intense review with 5 parts of the Casio WK7600, which is one I own, and the features and the sounds are the same on the CTK 7200, which is just a shorter key version of this one. I went through the trouble of not treating this like a toy because Casio calls it their high-grade keyboard. So I did not treat it like a toy. It's certainly borderline on a toy, but it's a difficult market to say what this keyboard actually fits into. I hope after hearing this keyboard and seeing this 5-part long review on this, that maybe you can determine whether this is the keyboard for you or not. Okay, well, thank you very much for all the time that you spent with me. We're all just poor musicians out here who can't afford these high-end instruments, but we're performers, and we need keyboards that can perform, and there are some out there. My Yamaha P95 is a performer piano. The Piaggio MPV-80, I could never quite get used to the touch and play it like a weighted piano. Even though these keys feel cheaper than the Piaggio, the edited pianos I made in here are much more touch responsive to me, and I can actually control the response and feeling with with the Casio easier than I can the MPV-80. Now all the MPV-80 needed to do was to put a MIDI pin on there, and that would have solved all my problems. So for Casio, I think they really screwed up by not offering this keyboard as just a box. No keyboard, no speakers, just the box with a MIDI pin. 5-pin MIDI in and out jack. That would have solved a lot of problems. That would have opened up a completely new market, as long as they took care of this problem with with going in and out of the fills. You need to smooth that up. They need to smooth that up. And they need to put at least a good piano sound in here with a long decay. They could, if they can do all that in a box and charge $450, then they will have to compete with the Korg micro arranger. And I doubt that they can compete on the level of editing and sound quality. So I think Casio's got a lot of work to do if they want to become part of a true musician's instrument. Now they build higher end instruments. They're 88 keys. I haven't played one, but the reviews sound good on them. So in this arranger type, this is the top end of their low quality arranger keyboards. I think they're almost there, but not quite a musician's instrument yet. Well, thank you.